Welcome to the Financial Freedom Mastermind Group podcast. Here we're all about breaking free from the 40 to 50-year work grind and accelerating our journey towards financial freedom. Join us every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern as we explore different types of investments that can fast-track your path to financial independence. We serve as a hub for connecting with fellow members during our sessions so you can share successes, ask questions, and keep the momentum going.
Good evening, everyone. This is Nigi Adewale, host of the Ekabo Home Financial Freedom Mastermind Group, and I'm so excited to be joined tonight by Saad, who is an investor based out of the Northeast that's done double-digit flips and burrs, and he's also one of the business partners and critical members of Baseline.com, which is a landlord and investor-friendly banking platform that's geared toward empowering independent landlords with tailored financial services, automated tools, and actionable data to save time, increase returns, and grow their rental portfolios. Saad, it's a pleasure to have you here, man.
Yeah, thank you so much, Neil. Very excited to be here.
Of course. And I know we're going to spend a good amount of time jumping into Baseline and kind of how it can help investors and those on the call and the different services that are offered. But before we get into that, I know you've been investing for a bit of time before you even kind of joined the Baseline team. Can we jump into that? How'd you get started in this real estate game?
Yeah, absolutely. Like most, I think, Americans, I became an investor accidentally. I accidentally became a landlord because I didn't sell my first house. I got this advice from one of my family members who was a very experienced investor to not sell. And that was in Brooklyn, New York. And so I decided to rent it out and became a landlord. And so after kind of a year or so of doing that, I realized, oh, wow, like this could be actually quite something. So from an investment perspective, it happened in that way. But once I saw the opportunity and the sort of potential of it, I partnered up with a ex-colleague of mine and in the New York, New Jersey area, and we decided to start investing. So that was about 5 years ago. And so from there, just to give you a quick overview, I guess, we've been focused mostly on BRRRR. We've done some sort of flips, which is like buy and sell, but we really don't focus on that. It's mostly BRRRR for long-term rentals. And then we have recently started doing some short-term and mid-term rentals also.
No, Saad, that's incredible to really highlight that journey. You started 5 years ago, and now you're kind of fully into this thing. Question for you, because I know the audience is going to have this question. Does BRRRR still work, right? You mentioned you've been doing that for 5 years. So many people are like, hey, you can't find a deal. The rentals aren't going to pencil out. You're not going to be able to get your money out. Is it still working for you in the New York, in that Northeast area?
Yeah, so a lot of my current investments are in Philadelphia, actually, not really in New York. And there's many reasons for that. But I think the quick answer is BRRRR can work, right? But like most people will tell you, a lot of the value comes up front, where it is getting the right purchase price. And so I think there's a sort of probably 70-80% of the value creation happens in your negotiation and the price you get. But then what we do also, part of the BRRRR part of it, is the value add. That's the second part. So one is getting the deal and getting the right price. And that's, I know it's quite difficult and you got to keep hunting and making offers. But second, it's more about what's your value add strategy? Because through the value add strategy, you can increase the appreciation, force appreciation, increase value, within 6 months and refi out your cash and get kind of pretty much back to, I would say 80-90% at least of the cash you put in, depending on what you're doing. So that's how we think about it, is that it is possible. It's definitely harder these days, for sure, with the lending environment, and high cost of things in terms of inflation. But definitely, I think we're still doing it. So it's possible. Yeah.
No, I love that. And to that point, it's really about making sure you're getting that deal up front, running your numbers, and ensuring that, hey, on the back end, we're going to be protected. And at the end of the day, you mentioned getting even 90%, 80% of your capital back. That's a major win, right? On a $500,000 property, you normally have to put down $100K. If you're able to get back and only have to put down $20K or $30K, that's as if you're buying a primary residence, and that is a major win. So I know everybody's going for the 100% BRRRR, but if you can get less than 20 and you're putting down 10%, 5%, please, that's still a win.
Absolutely. I've done deals where we got more money back than we put in. But I think those days are over. Like there was sort of this time of high value in terms of appreciation, and the comps were there. And I can probably say since the last like 18 months or so, even the comps started going away. So the appraisal value was lower. So, you have to be more realistic about your numbers. And we always underwrote more conservatively planning for that. But if it was a surprise win where I was expecting something to be, 250K of appraised value, but it came in at 320, I'll take it. But I wasn't planning for that. I was planning for the 250 and spending money like the 250 in terms of the rehab. But really, if it came in, I'll take it and I'll refi out to, my, let's say 70% LTV and go do the next deal. But I would say that kind of ratio is harder to get today. Like you can probably get 80, 90% depending on the deal these days.
Absolutely. And Saad, thank you for sharing a bit of your background because for the audience, it's important to know, hey, you're an investor. You've been doing this for quite some time. You have partnerships, you've been doing the flips, the burrs, and you also have been holding on to a lot of properties as long-term rentals, now doing short and mid-term rentals. So you've got a wealth of experience. And so when we shift gears and start talking about base lane, I think the first question for everybody, what is base lane? Can you explain just at a high level what it is?
Absolutely. So Baselane is a banking and financial platform designed to make investing and management of your finances easier. That's essentially what it is, right? And you might be asking why banking? The reason we led with banking is because we think that the bank account is really your center of your business. So really, it is a business, and everybody here is an operator, owner, investor, whatever you are running a business, whether it's just you, right? And you have like two properties or you have 100 properties. You're running a business. So you need a business account, and you need the right business account that really helps you streamline those finances and helps you keep up with your numbers so you can really focus on investing and scaling your business. And so our kind of like thesis is that we want people to have these rental property finances simplified, give you the control and the insight so that you know your numbers and you're able to really, take it from two properties to four properties to 10 properties and 20 properties and so on. So that's the high level of what it is. I can explain more about essentially what we offer, but we offer financial tools like business checking account with a lot of really cool features that automate and simplify your finances. And then we offer more of what I call the property management tools like online rent collection, lease creation, things like that, tenant screening that allow you to actually execute, in terms of the property management side. So that's in a nutshell what it is. And the really cool thing is we're bringing in what we call embedded finance, and that came from like our challenges and frustration as the founders and myself, our experiences where we were having trouble. So we found like insurance partner that we feel very comfortable and confident about to bring you that value or lending, for example, and other things that will add over time. And so, yeah, the idea is we want to bring you a one-stop shop that is a modern interface. It actually works like we say it does, and it can make your life easier.
No, thank you. And as someone who uses a lot of banks for a lot of different properties, how does this one differ from some of the big banks like a Chase, Bank of America? What separates Baselane?
Yeah, that's a great question. So most investors, have multiple bank accounts, right? I'm sure all of you do at least have two accounts. And so the step one is really maybe for the newer investor is like think about it as step one, separate your personal from business. So if you don't have a business checking account, you should have one. And so that's like, oh, well, which business account do you go for? Do you go for the incumbents, which is like Chase, BofA, Wells Fargo, maybe? Do you go for some of the digital SMB banks that are out there? How do you choose? And so we actually have a lot of blog content that talks about some of these things, but really, my first principle rule is, well, what do you need to do as an investor? What are the jobs to be done, and then how do you figure out what's the right bank account? And for me, it's simply that's where it starts. So it's really what sets Baseline apart is that we're focused on giving the value back to you, right? So we give you like super high APY that no regular bank is going to give you. So I think it's currently 4.46% as of today, and we're giving that value back to our users, right? We give you high cash back, which depending on how you use it, can be valuable. But really, the power in what we do is the organization. So we give you virtual accounts, which a regular bank won't give you, which allow you to, they're essentially like envelopes that allow you to organize one property or many properties in different ways. Maintenance reserve account, security deposit account, you name it, you can create virtual accounts for it. And we also have virtual cards that allows you to really like use those cards to bifurcate your spending, control your spending, but also be able to share with your team. If you have a property manager, maintenance person, cleaner, whatever, you can issue virtual cards to them. There, if you worked in like some of the recent fintech or tech companies, they all use these really awesome, virtual cards, right? They provision these cards instantly. You can set rules on them. You can even auto tag the categories on them. So at Baselane, like for example, what I do is my property manager has our virtual debit card. They have a $500 spend limit on it. I've already pre-tagged it to the category in the bookkeeping side, and I always know what they're spending on, right? And how much, instant alerts, and I can close it down, lock it anytime I want. That's an example. With our one of our Airbnbs, we have a cleaner really good. She does a couple of properties, so she has a card. So I just pay her through the card, for example. I don't even need to do Venmo and all these things. And so those are some examples of some of the features that we have. But what's really exciting for me is like we connect it to our bookkeeping and accounting so that the tagging is getting done as you set these things up. So you can classify something as rental income or an expense of some kind. And there's rules that allow you to do that in the Baselane interface.
So I'm getting excited, right? Because as you're talking through this, I'm just thinking of the systems that I currently have and how they're all pretty disparate. I can tell you right now, I'm paying for a bookkeeper to kind of keep it all together because I need to, because it's like, hey, 4 different accounts, different credit cards all over the place. Also, when you talked about the different accounts of like security deposits or maintenance account, it brought me back to that book, which I know you've read just from past research, The Profit First, right? And a lot of individuals on here kind of follow that, including me. And so I have 5 business bank accounts, right? Where I'm putting, okay, this is my operating account, this is profit, this is taxes. And I have to keep a certain threshold in each one of those, or I get billed. And I've gotten hit sometimes, right? And it hurts. But so when you're doing this within the baseline, is there a certain limit that you have to have? Are there like certain fees attached to that for creating new ones, or how does it?
We don't have any minimum balance requirements or any fees that we charge for the bank. And I mean, we'll charge for some premium features that we're going to launch later this year and early next year. So there's going to be some charges coming. Obviously, like still as a bank, we have to make money, but it'll be competitive. But yeah, there's no minimum requirements. And then, the example you gave, so profit first, right? You can open one business checking account with us. You can split that into 5 different virtual accounts, for example. So there's no limit on how many virtual accounts you can create within an account. And then you can set it up as you like. For example, profit account, the operating expenses account, things like that. So that's definitely a reality because that's where my frustration started was I always worried about having so many different bank accounts to manage. And here it's kind of like all in one place, essentially. So yeah, definitely. We've actually, I think, have some content on Profit First as well. And we might be doing a webinar at some point about that too, to just show people how to use it.
That is incredible. No, I actually have a couple individuals that I've been talking to that want to get started doing this. And so, this sounds like an awesome way to kind of get going. Another question on this piece: how long has Baselane been around? Until we started having our communication, I had never heard of them before. But how long has this been around?
Yeah, Baseline's been around for about 3 years. And so we're definitely a fast growing tech company that's coming up. And we launched our banking product about 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago. And so, yeah, we've been very lucky and fortunate to have like super users early on. So we got a lot of really good feedback. Our whole motto is focused on listening to customers and building products and features that they want. And that's what we've been doing. So things that people wanted, 8 months ago, we're launching them today. Like just this past week, we launched the lease creation, which people ask for. It's a Rocket Lawyer product. It's an API integration, and we're giving away free lease creation for somebody who's wanting to do a midterm or long-term lease. But yeah, we've been around for about 3 years, and we're very lucky, like I said, to have a lot of customers coming in and giving us great feedback. So we're learning, we're improving, we're launching more products, and yeah, we've got about 30, sort of like 30,000 folks across the US that are using the platform in different ways. And yeah, part of what we're doing now is now that we've kind of built the core products, is doing, conversations like this to promote it and to get the word out there about Baselane and continue growing.
Now, I know you've been asked this before, but I have to for the audience because it's the first thing that pops to mind. Insurance, right? Is the money secure? We earlier this year we saw a couple banks kind of fold and things of that nature, and it was kind of a rush on the bank to get your money out. Is your money secured with Baselane?
Yeah, so Baselane fits into the category of a digital bank, right? We don't have any physical branches, right? So that's one of the first things to make sure it's clear. We do issue a business checking account for sole prop or a business entity. We issue a debit card. You get a physical one, but like I said, you can do the virtual cards. And we partner with a bank called Blue Ridge Bank, North America. They are our banking partner. They have the business license, really, I should say, the banking charter in the US. And so that's how we can go to market, basically. So through that, the depository accounts that we utilize through Blue Ridge are FDIC insured up to $250,000 at the entity level per entity. So that's sometimes a little confusing for folks, but yeah, if you have one LLC, it's insured up to 250 for that. We actually are exploring options because there's been demand after this whole thing happened with SVB and some other banks to have higher, because we have folks that have deposited much more money than that in the account, 850, a million. Some folks have, depending on their size. And so we are looking into options that get us up to much higher. I won't say the number because I don't want to commit to something, but much higher FDIC insurance coverage. So probably early next year, we'll be able to offer something like that.
Saad, it's okay. You don't gotta say it publicly. Just text me the number so I know. All right, that would
Yeah.
be awesome. From one of the products that you mentioned that you're working on, and I believe you've already started to test out, is the lending aspect, right? Being able to come through and actually issue, potential loans. Can you tell us a little bit about that and kind of the vision for it?
Absolutely. So in real estate, this is one of the hardest things to do. And I know everybody who's out there is probably, feeling the same way that I did. And I do, because it's sort of like one of the challenges of how do you get funding. And I mean, there's many ways to get funding, right? I think you all know that. But I mean, when it comes down to getting a mortgage or a loan, right, where do you go? And so our vision for this is that we want to really go out there, evaluate potential partners, and bring you what we think is, the best. That's what we did with insurance with our partner Obi for rental property insurance. And I am personally the one responsible for doing that search, talking to these companies, vetting them, and bringing them onto our platform. So today we do have one partner that is live on Baselane called Lendency. And for me, when it comes to loans, there's really just two types, right? There's the traditional mortgage, and there is the sort of the DSR loan, right? Which is asset based on your asset, not your personal income. So we don't offer the traditional mortgage right now. But what's exciting is that we're actually about to launch another partner very soon called Simplest, and they're going to offer both the traditional mortgage, which, there are limits to how many you can have on a rental property portfolio, right? I think it's up to 10. And they're also going to bring the more of that sort of DSCR product as well. So we're going to have both covered. And what's super exciting, and this is, we've been working with this partner on the back end to kind of think through how do we bring this. I really always get, I don't know if you guys get annoyed by this, but when you have to like apply for a loan and then you have to call somebody, it's
Yeah.
what I'm like, hey, I'm trying to figure this out now, right? Like, so one of the things that we'll be able to offer is like a real time process where you'll be able to see some pricing in real time within a few minutes of like putting some information in. So that's super exciting. And they're very experienced, in terms of like their knowledge. That's the other second very important part because I noticed, and we've gotten that feedback, is like sometimes, especially the earlier investors, you're being too aggressive on your numbers. You're making assumptions that are very aggressive. It's not the lender, and then so we're trying to find people that, on the other side, when you talk to the lender, they can talk to you about these things and understand your assumptions and make sure they pressure test them too with you. So that's the idea. And so yeah, we'll have probably really in a couple of weeks this option available on baselane.com/loans. It'll be on our website, it'll be inside the product. And I'm very excited about it because nowadays, look, for me, like in terms of lending, the core product is commoditized. One lender, lender number two, lender number three, lender number four, you're going to find very similar pricing because the source of capital of the pricing is similar and they have similar requirements. So you could shop around, and you should always, but that's going to be very similar in terms of the rate you get, the sort of point structure you get, and all that. And so it comes down to knowledge for me and service and the experience. And that's why we're trying to bring a super slick user interface that's self-serve online to start, but then can be followed up with a sort of person who's very knowledgeable and can help you shop and give you options through the shopping that they do for you, and then bring you something like that's really a good fit for your deal. That's the idea. That's the vision. And yeah, that, like I said, that should be something that we'll launch in September with our second partner. And I'd be happy to share more about that when we do.
Absolutely, absolutely. And for those, before we kind of shift gears here, I've got just a couple more questions. Then we're going to open it up to the audience and those that join live to ask questions via the chat and or via call-in. But one of the questions I have is around signing up. If somebody wants to explore Baselane, how do they go about finding and kind of signing up for Baselane?
Absolutely. So actually, with you, we're bringing a special offer. I've loved my interactions with you, and I know you've got an amazing group here. So we did set up a special offer for your group. So I think we're going to be offering something that allows you to get up to $300 on a sign up bonus if you. And I think you're going to be sending us some information after the call, right? So if you follow the link that he's going to be sending, we'll be able to identify that you are coming, from this conversation that we're having here and this group, and we'll set up sort of a special promo here. So yeah, the link that you'll send over to folks. So we're baselane.com, BASELANE.com. But again, I would definitely encourage you to follow up with Nii, and I think the communication they send out will have this special offer for the $300. There are terms and conditions that apply to that to qualify, and you can check that out on our website. But I would encourage you to check it out that way.
Absolutely, absolutely. And Saad, another question for you: how can we help you and help the Baselane team in hitting your goals for this year and next year? What can we do as a next step?
Yeah, I really appreciate that question. Nobody asked that question. Look, for me, like this is all about community. And the thing I love about real estate is the more people I meet, more conferences we go to, we just form a lot of really amazing partnerships and friendships. So it's about helping each other. We're a company that been out there for about 3 years. We're trying to scale up and get more users, of course, right, and bring more value to you. And that can only happen if we help each other, right? And so one thing is simple. Check out Baselane, sign up, give us feedback on the product, use the product, and share the product with people that that are investing. That's really all I can ask for. Is like honest feedback and to check it out, and if it's valuable to you. And I'm very confident you'll love it. But yeah, definitely do those things, and I think that will help us.
Done and done. Saad, we're going to open it up now to the group. For those that are on the line, please feel free to drop a question in the chat and or to join us via the live call-in to ask questions of Saad, both his investing career as well as Baselane and how that can help you. And we have the first question in the chat, and this is coming from AJ. How have you been able to navigate the BRRRR strategy with holding periods being increased from 6 months to now 12 months on most of the conventional refis?
I want to clarify that when you say holding periods, are you talking about seasoning?
Season.
Yeah.
Correct.
So there, it depends on the lender. And so, originally I was very obsessed about seasoning, to be honest with you, because I was like, man, I want zero day seasoning, because I'm gonna get in here and get this property done in 4 weeks and just get my money out in 2 months, right? I'll be honest, that's kind of what I mindset was like when I started. The reality is, I would say this: it takes a lot longer to do the job properly. For me, at least, in my experience. Maybe you can do it faster. So one thing is more about just set realistic expectations because we always, tend to underestimate how long it's going to take depending on the scope. Because I do full gut renovations. I don't do like quick. Maybe you do shorter ones, so it's faster for you. That's one thing for sure. I'll say. But yeah, it's about the lender you partner with, right? So if that's important to you, and you're willing to go with a lender that is maybe not as digital and modern, maybe it's slower, right? But they have these terms. You can find them out there. Like what I did when I started in Philly was I called every single credit union and every single like I had like a list of 20 lenders. I called every single one and I talked to all of them and I picked one, right? And that they had 0 day seasoning. So that's why I picked them. And then, we stuck with them. We did several, I think like 7 or 8 deals with them. But at some point, like they started getting a little bit difficult. And so we didn't, continue with them. Things changed. And that happens. But yeah, that's my kind of answer on seasoning is like, do you really need that? Right? 6 months, I understand. I wouldn't go more than 6 months because I think like I can do a flip in 6 months, right? I'm pretty sure about that. But if the 12 months thing is not working out, try to find a lender that can do it more aggressively at 6 months or 3 months. And if you don't have one, go find one.
Agreed. And you just dropped the bar right there. And the fact that you called on 100 banks before you found the one that was able to do what you needed. That's what it takes. It's not just going to the one that you're most comfortable with. It's looking up, pulling that list from yellow pages, white pages, internet, and calling, and you will be able to find somebody that will make it work for you.
Yeah.
And one clarifying question, kind of shifting gears, you mentioned virtual cards earlier, right? And how you can use that with Baselane. And when you say virtual cards, do you mean that like you're sending them to somebody and they're putting in their Apple wallet, or how do you use a virtual card?
There's several ways you can use it. You can provision it on Baselane instantly. So let's say you have the business checking account set up. You're going to get a business debit card in the mail, so you can get a physical card. But let's say you want to now issue a virtual card. You can go online now. It takes like 30 seconds to create one. You can name it. You can set the limits. You can even identify the bookkeeping category you want that virtual card to, fit into. Let's say it's like Airbnb cleaning, for example, whatever. So you can provision it. Then you have on the interface, you have the card and the number and all the details you need to use the card, right? So you can integrate it into one of your wallets and use it that way. One thing that I've done also is I set it up as the account on my Venmo, for example, or Cash App. Some of the smaller vendors, they want to get paid on the spot, for example. So yeah, you can set it up and load it into one of those sort of like P2P Venmo type, payment apps as well. And instead of like having the bank account, you can issue it through that virtual card, basically. And the beauty of that is like when you pay them that way, the bookkeeping is already done.
I love that. I love that because that's an issue I run into constantly as part of my businesses. One of the businesses that kind of run and operate is a short-term rental management business, and we manage about 25 properties across Metro. And a lot of vendors, we have to have that conversation up front, like, hey, we can't tell you, right? Because we don't have it connected to this account, and it would just get confusing. We actually got to write checks so that we have a paper trail, and we can see, okay, let's go back to this check. This is what it was for. This is what unit it was for, and kind of match it up. This would definitely help with that piece, just thinking through it, and it probably eliminate a lot of friction with some of
Absolutely.
the vendors.
Especially if you have recurring ones that you're going to be using. Like cleaners is a very good example in the STR short-term rental space. You probably have your go-to cleaners, and they're probably going and hitting the same properties that over and over again, right? And so you can set it up for them. And honestly, I don't even think about that part. That's like I have my cleaner, they've got like their fixed rate, and it's just a repeat, basically.
That is pretty cool. That is pretty cool. Any questions for Saad, please feel free to drop them in the chat and or to join live to ask, and we'll give it a second. And Saad, we got a question from Emmanuel. Thank you, Nee and Saad, for putting this on. Definitely be checking out Baselane. Is the goal for Baselane to be a one-stop shop for banking and property management?
Yes, we want to be the platform you use every day to run your business. So we have focused on the financial management part first because we felt like that's where the biggest gap was in the market. And I'm sure you guys would agree with that, right? Like, so yeah, that part is coming to maturity as we build all of these features. And then we have always had rent collection. It's gotten a lot better. We're adding things like late fee, different late fee structures now to it. We just launched the lease creation. Next up is tenant screening. So, we like to do things the right way, and we kind of like, do it block by block. But that's the vision, and you'll be able to, all the way from listing application, the screening to collecting rent, eventually to like maintenance management, ticketing, and all that on the platform, as well as doing all your financials all there, and being able to like get the right financial products you need at the right time, whether it's insurance, whether it's lending, whether it's like helping your tenants with credit boost, right? Like we're working on something like that where tenants are going to be able to use the rent payments to improve their credit score, but that also incentivizes them to pay on time, right? Which is a huge problem with especially like smaller landlords that are in like C and D areas. That's a huge problem.
And this is pretty incredible when you put it like that, combining both the finances with the rental property management, because historically it's been separate, right? Like I can tell you right now, we're using, like buildium.com, for our long-term rentals. And then we have our different bank accounts for collecting the money and kind of keeping track. And it takes a bookkeeper to connect the two and say, okay, hey, we're missing this. Let's reconcile this, things of that nature. It'd be awesome to have it all in one system that's seamless to where, hey, the tenant pays, it's automatically recorded in, and we kind of off to the races from there.
Absolutely. And we're also going to be working on launching something called multi-user access so that different members of the team can have different types of access. That's probably a early 2024 feature. That's not going to be something that we can launch this year. But that's the vision. Vision is like you. I know you have a team of people that you're working with. Then you will definitely want them to have certain accesses, right? Maybe you want your accountant to have the bookkeeping access. Maybe you want somebody in your team to be able to do something on the financial side. So those things will also be coming.
That's exciting. That's pretty incredible. No, and I love the fact that you're kind of online based because you can move pretty quickly, right? You can do updates, as you mentioned. You can talk to somebody, get some feedback from some of the customers, and understand, hey, we need this, and implement it pretty rapidly. I think that's kind of the world that we're living in now. When feedback comes in, you've got to take it seriously and see if you can't implement that pretty quickly.
We love feedback. We're data obsessed. We love feedback. We literally have like a very nice process, a robust process that tracks every single piece of feedback and feature request. And then we have, recurring meetings where we sit down as a senior team and evaluate. In fact, we just did that this morning for 2 hours, where we evaluate, okay, what are we gonna, what are the demands? What are we gonna build next? How are we gonna build it? Right? When are we gonna build it? So that keeps happening on a recurring basis, and that's why we're continuing to ship more product.
Absolutely. And we got a follow up question on the last one. What are the different types of payment methods that are accepted for rent collection on baseline?
Yeah, so you can do ACH, which most people do. So basically, the tenant has to. There's a tenant portal that we have. Within the tenant portal, it's very simple. They get an email invite. They can sign up in like a minute. Once they've signed up, they add a payment method. They can do their bank account, and we use a very well-known company called Plaid to do that. Plaid has I think they process over 500 million banking connections. And in Plaid, there's a few methods they can use also. So you can do that, or you can do debit or credit card. On the ACH side, if you guys are familiar with, I'm sure if you've ever used Venmo or something, you've seen Plaid. You can do an automatic instant connection, which allows you your bank, the tenant's bank, to connect to us directly, so we can pull the money, or they can do more of that older school micro deposit type authentication to be able to send the money in. So those are the three options available to the renters.
Perfect. Perfect. No. And shifting gears a little bit back to some of the loan discussions. I know you're going to be offering that DSCR product coming up. One thing I've been looking for, and it was here for a brief moment and then it disappeared, but those DSCR loans on short-term rentals, right? Are those coming back? Is that something that's in discussions, or what do we got with those?
Yeah, I am working on that. Most lenders are not offering that right now. even the ones that used to offer it, I mean, I'm sure you can understand the environment is very, very challenging. And I would say in the last 20 years, this is probably the most difficult time from a lending perspective in real estate, maybe post crash, 2006, 7 crash. So, yeah, we are exploring some options. Again, I'm taking my time to really, I like to vet this stuff and test it myself. I won't give it to you if I'm not going to use it. So, I'm actually literally I'm actually finishing a short term rental project right now. End of the month is going to be ready, furnished, and I'm planning to use as one potential partner to get a loan through them. And if I feel like it was a good, experience and they were solid, we will be then working with them to bring that to the rest of our baseline users. Absolutely. So probably another month or so, maybe 2 months to get there. But there are a couple of lenders that can do that. It is structured, in a DSCR manner. It's more expensive than your traditional private money DSCR on a regular rental. And you can understand the risk is much greater for them, right? Because they're underwriting on a variable income stream that could be $5,000 one month and $100 another month, right? In terms of bookings. So the pricing is different, but you have to go in knowing that it's not going to be the same price as a long term rental. And so that's actually very exciting for me because some of the other, short-term rentals we did, they were converted from long-term, so we had other kind of financing. But this is trying to do more of an official STR type loan on a rental property that is either going to be an Airbnb type property or sort of like a traveling nurses type property.
No, love it, love it. There was literally a time period, I want to say it was 2 years ago, where it was like 15% down based on STR, and I was like, hey, this is awesome. Uh, and literally before I could take advantage, it was gone. I was so mad. I was like, come on now. So no, this is good to hear that you're exploring options to potentially bring something back. And I think it should be known, right, that yes, it's not going to be as good as the regular conventional for a long term, because long term rentals have been around since forever. But to have some other option for being able to show some income, like, hey, this is what we're doing from a short-term rental standpoint, or some Air DNA data to kind of back us up on a refinance, would be amazing.
That's the main thing, and that's what we're trying to build baseline to, as well as like build a platform that's more data centric. And really, the long term vision for us is on the lending side, because we're going to be able to see your business data, right, on platform. Ideally, over time, once we have enough of that data, we can get unique loan and insurance products only for our customers because we have the data, right? Sort of the alternative data underwriting model, which everybody talks about, but nobody really does it, right? Because, like you said, most of these models, the risk models, the underwriting models are built on 30, 40, 50 years of data on regular mortgages. So when it gets into this space of like new types of income streams like STR or midterm, they don't know how to look at it. They don't know how to evaluate it. But the long-term vision for Baseline is as you transact with us, you're on the platform, you're doing your bookkeeping, we'll be able to, with your permission, eventually help you get personalized offers from these lenders and insurance companies showing your track record, right? Which is for them harder to understand and compute. And that's a really exciting stuff. That's more of like a 4 or 5 year roadmap. That's where I'm really excited because we're going to change the way lending is done in rental properties.
No, I love that, and it's incredible because it does add a transparency element. One of the things that drives you crazy, I can imagine drives me crazy, is when you're getting ready to buy a property from another landlord who's owned it for X amount of years, and their books are all off. If they had something like this, to where you could actually say, "Hey, here goes the history," and track it, one, it would help tremendously in a transaction of that nature, and two, to your point, if you could show that history to a lender, it's from a reputable, source that could only help your case when you're looking to get some financing.
Absolutely. And most of the small landlords don't have a T12, they don't have a T6. They send you like the lease agreement, right? Like, okay, well, I can Google comps myself too, right? Like, how did it actually perform? And they don't know, right? And if they're collecting on Zelle, guess what? They're going to be sending you Zelle screenshots. The lender's not going to go for that, right? Or Cash App screenshots. So the idea here is really to professionalize even the smaller landlords that are just starting, especially because if you run it like a business with the right mindset, you can scale that thing, right? And that's why we're here is we want to educate everybody that is investing and do our best with that, but also grow with the community and bring you the features you need to scale up, essentially.
Saad, we appreciate you for joining us tonight. Thank you so much for sharing your vision as well as where Baselane's at right now. I think you're going to get a lot of inquiries coming from those that are on the line right now and those that will listen later. We just wanted to say thank you again. Any last words or anything that you wanted to leave our audience with for the night?
Yeah, I would say, finance is like the number one cause of stress actually in the US, statistically speaking. And I'm sure we all feel it every day, every evening, right? You're thinking about the numbers and you're stressed out. And for me, the simple message is, well, you could be much more informed and really de-stressed if you knew where you stood. And this is how you can think about Baseline is your financial center for managing your rental property finances, automating them more so you have control of your business and you can think about the strategic things and the execution of calling, lenders and figuring out how to get the next deal. And so we want to be your partner and we're here to like work with you and help you succeed. So I'm very excited to be a part of this community. I'm very super excited to just have this first convo. I'd love to maybe have more conversations. And yeah, if you ever have any questions, you guys can look me up on LinkedIn, or I'm happy to follow up with my email if anybody wants to reach out to talk more.
Done and done. We will put all of that in the show notes. Saad, we want to thank you again for joining the Ekabo Home Financial Freedom Mastermind podcast. And for those listening, please hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, go ahead and share this, and go ahead and follow Saad as well and check out Baseline. We appreciate you for joining us tonight, and we will see you next week.
Thank you so much. Take care.
See you guys.